happy about this little bird. Because it's weird. I know it's there, but it's not there. Right? It's like, wow. Yeah. I also was first thinking if I should actually do it like this, or if it would be too much of a distraction. But then I thought, well, maybe people get sick of looking at me. And then they can just look at this bird, right? It's just something to hang on to. Because we seem to live in a world that is fond of distractions, right? But we all want to distract ourselves from ourselves. And we are willing to do that by any means, whether that is each other, whether that is small talk, whether that is smoking something, whether that is ingesting something. And when I say that, it doesn't even matter whether it's psychedelic or not. It's just everything we do seems to be a way to run away from how we feel at the moment. And I just have to turn off my screen. Alright. So just to give you a little introduction about my general background with psychedelics, and also how that transitioned to a deeper understanding. Because what I wanted to call this recording first was cannabis and spirituality. And then I wasn't sure if I should talk also about other psychedelics. Because there seems to be some kind of hype amongst people, especially now that in countries all over the world, they're discussing whether or not to legalize cannabis. And here in Germany, they seem to have a problem with that. And to be honest, in a way, I understand it. I mean, they say that in the Netherlands, life is different there. The mentality is different there. But is that because everybody's smoking? Well, it's possible. But to be honest, not everybody should smoke. And probably nobody should smoke all the time. Because smoking generally makes you lazy. And I know there's people who say they suffer from insomnia and then taking cannabis helps them. There's people that suffer from anxiety and then cannabis helps them. But to me, that's just an excuse, because you're lazy. Or you don't want to take care of whatever keeps you awake at night. Because if you have a lot of energy and you don't know what to do with that, and then you smoke so you can sleep, that's just the same thing as eating. It's just the same thing as masturbating. I mean, sure, if it really improves your life's quality because you're really stressed, but then the goal should be not to say, oh, cannabis is so awesome, because it surely has benefits. But my experience is that cannabis makes you weak. And at least with me, I often had these munchies. And it's the same thing with people that drink a lot of alcohol and then they vomit. It's like considered to be funny. Oh yeah, I had the munchies and then I stuffed myself full. Yeah, real awesome, man. Oh yeah, that's really awesome. Because somewhere in this world, people are starving, mate. And you just had the munchies, right? I mean, you almost killed yourself with overeating, and then there's people that die from starvation. I mean, that's just out of balance. So we here in this kind of modern world, we seem to take life a little bit, like, we take it for too granted. Granted? Did you just say granted? Let's do a little snip snip. I don't know if you ever watched Rick and Morty. I can't say, I can really recommend it, but I do say I had a good time watching it. And sometimes I think about rewatching it. But I also usually look for things that reflect on me. Like, what do I see in the world? And how do they present it in a creative way in movies? Yesterday I finished that movie Mirror Mask, and that movie is genius, man. I mean, it took me a few attempts because I'm often so restless because I feel like I'm supposed to be working all the time. But I also like working. I like being creative. I actually like standing here and talk. I also like it that I ordered the Bialetti, the stovetop espresso makers, and I ordered one, a second-hand one, and it's gonna arrive probably today, and I already have a package of ground espresso, and it's really insane, but I'm so happy about this because I used to have one of these Bialetti machines for 1 cup. And then at one point I got one made of stainless steel because it's supposed to be healthier. And it had 4 cups. And that's just overkill. And when I wanted to drink a coffee, I used that thing, but I actually didn't like it. For some reason it was too strong and it was too much, and I just didn't really like it. And while I was in Amsterdam that brief time when I stayed with, I'll just call him a friend, in the broadest term of somehow being friendly towards each other and sharing experiences, he had a 1 cup espresso machine, and I realized it's too small. It doesn't satisfy me, and now I have been over a year. Actually, I had this one made of stainless steel. I chucked it. I just threw it away because I didn't want to drink that anymore. And then I thought, I think I can give it another shot because now I also feel like I'm more balanced. So I can deal with it a bit better. Which means I stepped away from coffee for a long time. And now I feel like, I can drink it once in a while without getting sucked into it. I can drink it once in a while and really appreciate it rather than cling to it because I identify with the feeling that it gives me. Now I know the feeling that it can give me, but I also know that it's better to also work for the feeling that I want coffee to give me. But sometimes it's just nice to just let a substance do the work for you. Because if you're always struggling to hold yourself up, then once in a while it's nice if you can relax into the moment. And that of course brings you to psychedelics. So if I'm every day doing my workout, I have a routine, I'm doing my workout, I'm getting my work done, I have my diet in check, I don't have a lot of heartburn, I drink enough water and tea, enough is whatever satisfies you. I probably drink about 1 liter per day, maybe a bit more. And it's mostly tea if I drink water, I don't really drink it, but there's a reason for that. Because if I make tea, I make a batch of tea. And if I don't drink that, it's gonna taste really vile after at least 2 days sitting in the thermos bottle. So I'm kind of forcing myself to drink it, because if I don't drink it, I'm gonna throw it out. And that's why tea is easier for me to drink. Plus, I also really like this tea with ginger and black tea and spices. I really like this mixture. Which reminds me that I should probably get more of that. But I'm also sometimes a little bit afraid, because I drink quite a lot of black tea. And sometimes I'm a little bit afraid that that makes me too anxious. So I actually also was planning to first drink all the tea that I have available, because I have quite a bit of tea. I also have green tea. And when that is all gone, then I can get black tea again. Because otherwise, I'm just drinking black tea and the rest is just standing around. Because if they stand around, things don't get any better. Yeah, so my background in psychedelics, yeah, probably you can listen to on my podcast, Godly Substances. It's a show I created where I talk about psychedelics in general. Yeah, you can check that out. But I also put the link in the description of an article I wrote on godly substances, if you want to read that. I'm going to put the link to the first episode of my podcast. I'm going to put that in later. I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it after the episode is finished. Sometimes you just have to stick with what you said. And now I've already brought up a lot of mentalities that I have developed. So sometimes you just have to stick with what you say. So there's a reason why for a while I stopped smoking cannabis, and that is still going on. Because there was a time where I just wanted to smoke all the time. I was really greedy for smoking. And whenever I was somewhere and somebody would smoke cannabis, or I knew he had cannabis, I just wanted to smoke it all the time. But then I realized I didn't really like that. I observed myself. And some people, I think they have a right to smoke. Do you know how it is in Jamaica? Somebody rolls his own joint, because they always smoke pure, or so I've heard. I mix it with herbs, like sage or something, right? And then you smoke it. Like, this is not advertisement. You probably have to say that, because people are stupid. Talk about this, they want to try it, and then they do something stupid because they don't know what they're doing, because cannabis is not a toy. But anyway, in Jamaica, everybody just smokes their own joint. You don't go around sharing this stuff, which actually I think has a point to it, because who are you sharing it with? And sometimes it's better to just say no, right? You can sit there and you smoke your joint, and then somebody sits, and you can already tell that they really want it. It's like, can I also have some? You say no. But you can roll your own. I mean, you could say that, right? Well, I can't roll. Well, then learn. Learn how to roll. If you can't roll, how do you want to smoke, right? I mean, you can't roll, but you want to smoke. You don't have the skill to roll, but you want to smoke. And now you want to leech off my ability to roll? I think you just have to teach yourself. You know, that is a much better mentality, because then either the person fucks off because they're irritated, which is a benefit for you because you can either smoke on your own or have somebody who's like really irritated and anxious. And that already brings me to the point of modern life. Like, where do you smoke? Where do you smoke? I mean, do you see the life that's going on here? Do you know what cannabis does? I assume you don't. Yeah. Because most people don't know what it does. Because they don't pay attention, they just smoke. Because they think smoking is cool. For them it's like a status symbol. Oh yeah, I'm a smoker. Right? It's like something you say, something you identify with. Oh yeah, cannabis is really awesome. It's the solution. Everybody should smoke. No. Definitely not. I believe that cannabis should be a tool for spiritual growth and healing. And that means you have to be conscious about what you're doing. And you have to pay attention to what's happening. And most people don't pay attention to anything because they're distracted by like weird birds jumping around. It's like, oh, look at that bird, it's like smoking. Yeah, I had this one guy and I was on Instagram and we were chatting. And he told me that he was smoking bong every day for, I don't know, since he was 16 or something. And that's like 10 years. And he said, oh, your art looks really psychedelic. Do you take psychedelics? You know, it's like, they don't know what they're talking about, right? He was taking it lightly, but he didn't have his life in order. I mean, he was smoking for 10 years. Bong, the whole day. So, you know, he wasn't using the plant was using him. Or whatever was using him to use the plant. Probably his trauma. Or, I don't know if you want to talk about demonic possession or something. But, I mean, there's people that believe in these things. You know, I had experiences where I wasn't so sure. I mean, who, you know, when I sit around and suddenly I feel like smoking cigarettes, like tobacco, who wants me to do that? You know, sometimes I do have voices in my head. Where do they come from? Because it's surely not me saying these things. You know, it's not me that needs to smoke tobacco, so who needs to smoke tobacco? So it's a little weird that there should be a voice telling me to smoke tobacco if I actually don't need it to survive. So who needs it to survive? I mean, that's just stuff you have to think about. And yeah, this stuff can be scary. I mean, I'm not talking about spirituality as a game, because this is serious stuff. You either want to grow or you want to stay how you are. And if you want to grow, you have to face everything that scares you. And if the idea of being possessed scares you, you have to work on that. Because in the end, it's just you. Whatever possession is, you might be possessed by anger. That's a form of demonic possession. But you can demonize your anger, or you can acknowledge it and accept it and then work on it and look at it and let it go. And that's how it's supposed to be. If I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't stand here and talk like this, with this smug grin on my face, and this awesome hat that I crocheted myself. Yeah. But on the inside, this hat is a bit messy, right? It's like a hack job. But it's okay, because it was honest when I made it, and I didn't feel like making it any different, so it just stayed like that. But generally, I mean, it was a hard and stony road to get to this place, because I had to fight all these things. I had to fight all my addictions. I had to learn to relax in an environment that has no wish for me to relax. Because if I'm relaxed, you know, I'm not online buying stuff on Amazon. You I don't watch porn. If I'm relaxed, I don't have a need to listen to what the government is saying. And they want that I listen to them because they want me to be afraid so that they can tell me what to do about my fear, because that's how they earn money. And so if I use psychedelics or coffee or anything at all to just keep running around like an idiot, then I cannot pay attention to what is really happening. And I cannot pay attention to how I really feel, because the way I feel is anxious and afraid, and I'm just feeding into that, or I'm just pushing it away, because every time a bit of anxiety comes up, I just smoke a joint, or I smoke a cigarette, and then I stand there looking really cool while me standing there smoking a cigarette is basically my own idiocracy. I'm just showing that I'm an idiot, that I'm ignorant of my fear. And I'm trying to get stability by holding up an image. Oh, I have it all together. But the reason that you're smoking is that you're anxious and that you're afraid. So how is it cool to smoke if it's just pretense? Because that's what being cool is about. Nobody's cool. You're just pretending. Oh, I don't give a shit. That's what cool is. It's like no emotion at all. It's like standing around, yeah, whatever. I've seen these people. I meet them. So yeah, whatever. And then you go there and you scare them a little. They shit their pants. They might not show it, but they shit their pants. Yeah, and then you go home and you smoke. Yeah, or you masturbate. So modern life is really, really stressful. I get that. It's really stressful. I sit here and I want to meditate. Let's say I want to meditate. You're hammered with all kinds of stuff. There's constantly cars driving around. Constantly cars. Then all the time you hear the ambulance. Yeah, then people talking, everybody's angry, everybody's like, just how I grew up when we wanted to go on holiday. It was always stress. Everybody was like, getting angry at each other, snarling. Everybody's an asshole. Cyclists are assholes. People in cars are assholes. Homeless people are assholes. Rich people are assholes. Politicians are assholes. Punks are assholes. Everybody's an asshole. To me, even some animals are assholes. Just because they piss me off. Yeah. People in these, old people in these things that just drive around on the sidewalk, they're assholes as well. Because they just think they own the place. They don't want to slow down. Nobody wants to slow down. If people leave the house, they're just rushing to get back to it, and I get that also. Because life is really hectic. If I leave my room, I'd rather go back inside. But today I actually feel like maybe I should leave the room. Because I feel super, super anxious to get out of here. But maybe that's what keeps me busy, I don't know. I really want to get away from this place. Because I've been in here, I haven't, apart from bringing out the trash just now, I haven't left the house in maybe 3 weeks. I don't really remember anymore. Could be 2. I don't really check the dates. I just know that at one point I just stopped leaving the house. And it's okay because, I don't live alone, so there's still people that buy food, and it's okay. But I also know why I'm doing it, because I actually want to be here, I want to be productive, but I also have to say that it's a little bit hectic. Like, it's really hectic. Really hectic. Why do we talk like that? What is hectic? Nothing is hectic. I mean, what do I care if an ambulance is rushing around to save people because they think that's their job? Well, save them and then complain that we're overpopulated. I mean, if you're saving all the people that actually wanted to die, I mean, it's not like people even have a choice. I mean, if you just want to die peacefully, everybody's jumping on your back. You can't die peacefully because then somebody's getting really upset. It's either your family, no, you have to hold on, you have to stay alive. What, should I stay alive for you? Because you think you can't live without me? I mean, that's your problem. People are so anxious, and that's the idea of letting go, to accept that you had a certain time with a person because at one point they're going to die. That's just how it is. So you should rather start dealing with that instead of running away from it. You're just sitting at home and then there's this feeling, oh, one day my mother is gonna die, or my cat is gonna die, or my dog is gonna die. Well, you bought a dog to make yourself feel better. Well, in 10 years you're gonna have to deal with the dog dying. And until then you're gonna be afraid that your dog is going to die. Well, when you got the dog, it was obvious it would die at some point. Just as it is obvious that if you buy a laptop, it will crash at some point. So just like that, you may have had times where cannabis worked for you, but these times are probably far gone. Because at first you were really anxious, and then you smoked cannabis and you were really relaxed, and then you kept smoking it, and then you were so relaxed that you actually started to become just as anxious as you were before. Because if you're too weak in this kind of world, it's gonna eat you up, and you're gonna just lay around, I feel so miserable. Yeah, then feel miserable. But if you would just stop smoking for a while, because that's also what you have to understand, what cannabis is supposed to do, why it can heal you. Because a plant, or whatever psychedelic substance, is a mediator. It's somewhat a translator. It's something that opens you up to an experience or to the way you feel. But if you use it to push away feeling, then you are missing the purpose of the substance. Because cannabis is supposed to relax you enough so that you can deal with whatever you're feeling in a more relaxed way, in a more like centered way. So that's one good way of doing it. In case you are a smoker, don't listen to music. Turn on no music. Turn on nothing. Put away your phone. And then when you smoke, you just sit there and you breathe into your stomach and you try to yawn. That's really relaxing. And when I yawn, I often start to cry. It's just tears running out. And that's tension leaving the body. That is letting go. Yawning is a form of especially the jaws. Wow, they're so tight. They're so tense. You just have to let that go. There's stuff that just needs to come out. It's important. And that's why right? I have a friend and he often talks about cannabis therapy. And that's not how most people do it, because most people, they go out into the park, they meet with friends, they watch movies and they smoke. But that's not how cannabis therapy works. The way cannabis therapy works is you probably put on some really relaxing music. And I don't know what you think is relaxing. Maybe you think rock music is relaxing. Forget it. Forget it. You know, get some binaural beats or something. There's some like thunderstorm recording or rain recording or some white noise. You know, just put it on gently. You know, I actually like more the Brownian noise. It's not as shh, it's more like or you can even make like a wind noise or something. Or you know these bowls that you use to make sounds like boom, or Tibetan flute music or something. You know, that's the kind of music you want to put on when you smoke cannabis. And then how I do it, because sitting upright usually wasn't really working that well. So I would prepare a place that's really comfortable, and then I would cover myself in a nice and warm blanket. You know, I would smoke or I would ingest it or something, and would lie down on a really nice blanket in a clean room. Yeah, you have to make an effort for such an experience. If you want to have a good and enriching and wholesome and healing experience with cannabis or a psychedelic substance, you have to create the space that's clean and nice. So you wipe all the surfaces, you make sure you remove all the dust with like a wet cloth. Right? You remove all the dust. There's an episode called maybe it's called Cleaning or something. But just how you do it, you take a bowl or a bucket, you put warm water inside, a bit of soap, then you take like a towel or a cloth. You can even take an old t-shirt, doesn't really matter, or just something you use to clean surfaces. And then you first, you make sure that your room is generally clean. And then you take that water, right? Maybe if you have a carpet and you can roll it up, you roll it up. You can even bring it outside and like shake it off. You know, if you have a carpet floor, then you should at least vacuum. And then you just wipe all the surfaces. You start with the top surfaces, so you can also de-dust, take all the cobwebs of the ceiling. Then you go around and everything you've touched, you just wipe with a wet cloth. Right? You wipe the handles just like this, of your windows, the handles, the light switches, from your closet where you've touched it. I also, you can wipe your phone. I wipe my screen, my keyboard. And when I've done that, and all the shelves and stuff, so it's a bit of work. If you have like a lot of decoration, I keep my decoration to a minimum. Because if I have a lot of small stuff standing around, it's a pain to clean. So my room is now adapted to cleaning. And then I wipe all the surfaces. And when I've done that, I wipe the ground. And if you have access to a garden, you can even take all the chairs you have, or the mattress of your bed, you take it outside, and you let it stand in the sun for a couple of hours. Or if it's just a dry day, you just bring it out so that it can, like nature can wash away all the bad energies. Because you're sleeping in that stuff. And that means if you smoke cannabis and you've been living in this room for a while, you're basically opening up to your own shit. But you want to open up to something new, to a new feeling, to a good feeling. You want to open up to healing. But what do you have to do to heal? You first have to clean, right? If you have a wound that's festering, which is how you could consider depression. You know, depression is like emotional wounds that are festering inside of you. So you have to start taking care of that stuff. You know, it's not just about, oh, I'm gonna smoke good, I'm gonna feel better. That's not it. Because everybody who keeps smoking realizes that at one point they start becoming kind of paranoid. Because stuff starts piling up. And if you smoke in cities, you basically merge with that place. If you smoke with your friends, you kind of grow into each other. And when you go back home, you don't know who you are anymore. Then you suddenly have habits that are not yours. You do things that you actually normally wouldn't do. All kinds of things. And that's why it's important, right? So it's probably best when you smoke to just do it alone. Or with somebody that knows what he's talking about. And 99% of the people have no idea what they're saying. They're just saying something that sounds smart. And you just suck it up, but it's just bullshit. Most people have no idea what they're saying. They're just saying something because talking gives them the feeling that they're really smart because they're the one saying stuff. And so, after you've done that, and you've prepared your room, and then you also have to take the time and you make sure nobody can disturb you. So I don't know, when you live with your family or with parents or with a partner, well, with a partner you can discuss this, that you need this for yourself, but then your partner also has to respect that and give you the space. If you say, I need this room to do this because I have to also connect with myself once in a while, then your partner has to give you the room. If they don't want to do that, well, I don't know. You just have to do it then. And you just go in and lock the door. But if you have a really anxious partner, they might actually bang on the door. So, just think about it. If that partner is really good for you, in the end, it's your choice if you want to hold on to a toxic relationship where your partner has no wish to open up to something new. So if you want to move on, you have to move on. And that means you have to let go. You see, it's not just about smoking. There's so much stuff connected. Because this world is stressful, it's hectic, it's fast-paced, so you have to slow down. If you don't slow down, they're gonna have you run around all your life. And I see it in adult men that just cannot relax ever because they're constantly running away from their fear, and that makes them cowards. You have to face it, but in your own way. Not because somebody tells you, do this now. No, but because you feel like something needs to change. And the first step is by cleaning your room. You have to show that you want it. If you don't want it, you're just gonna repeat the same stuff over and over again. And cleaning for me is really hard. It's a really hard process. But you could say, until I've cleaned my room, I'm not gonna smoke in here. You could say that. Right? That's, how I usually work. I'm really productive. I'm really creative. So usually how I did it, I did my creative stuff until I got to a point where my room was so dusty and so messy that I couldn't ignore it anymore. And even when I got to that point where I realized it's really dirty, it still took me quite a while to actually clean it, because that to me is a major accomplishment. I mean, I sometimes didn't clean my room for 3 months. And then no wonder that you have no energy to do anything, because you're just sitting in your own depression all the time. Right? So you have a wound that's dirty, you have to clean it first, and then it can heal. So you have to clean it, and then you have to make sure it stays clean. So all the dirt, it's like emotions, right? Fear comes up, you look at it. Oh, what's this? Clean it away. And one way of cleaning, because that's how everything is connected. You think you clean your room and it's, why should I clean my room? Because it's not just cleaning your room, because the room is a representation of yourself. And if you don't take the time to clean your room, that means you identify with your trauma already. You identify with your depression, and you're afraid to let go of that. And that's why you deny yourself cleaning, and maybe you think you're a dirty, evil piece of shit. Yeah, a lot of people think that of themselves. And then they maintain habits that keep them in that state. But I would suggest you just start working on that. So the first step, you can say, okay, I won't smoke, and first I'm gonna clean. And then you clean. And then you take your time. I usually prefer nighttime. When everything quiets down a little, people accept that I'm just gonna be in my room and they won't see me anymore during the day. And then also nobody's gonna come and ask me anything, because they assume I'm sleeping, right? So if you turn on really gentle music, nobody's gonna hear that. Anyway, and then because that's what modern life is also about. You have to learn how to avoid others, right? That's what I learned. Sometimes I wait till I realize everybody's out of the way, and then I leave my room and I do something. And then I go back to my room without meeting anybody, because I don't want to meet them. Because I don't want to interact with them. That's okay, Because I just rather leave them to themselves. Because at the moment, there's other people I would like to spend time with, but that's not the time right now. So I'm spending time on my own. That's important. So it's also important to allow yourself to do things on your own. And sometimes we just spend time with friends because they can't be alone, and we think we're helping them, but we're actually helping ourselves. We're actually helping ourselves, and it's really interesting. Like, that's something I could work on, because at the moment we're taking care of a dog, and I have a real, I'm really angry at that dog, and it might actually be that I'm jealous. It might actually be because I know it's not my dog, and I know that dog will go somewhere else soon. And so I'm just ignoring that dog all the time. But I think it's important that I do this. Sometimes you just have to distance yourself, because I also don't really feel like I have the time. Because, with that dog, for instance, if I start engaging with her, she never gets enough. You want to play, she wants to play all the day. And once you play with her, she's in play mode, and then you've lost. I don't know, maybe I deny myself playing at the moment. Or maybe, because it's not like I'm unhappy. Sure, there's some things I sometimes wish could be different, but it's not like I'm really unhappy. I actually like it. There are a lot of things that I'm looking forward to. Okay, I have to admit, the idea of standing here and recording this was much nicer than standing here and recording this. You know, that's how the idea of cleaning can be much nicer than actually cleaning. You know, the idea of doing a cannabis ceremony or cannabis therapy might be much nicer than doing it, because when you're doing it, right, you're gonna feel it. But before, it's just an idea, it's a fantasy. So sometimes I even had the feeling, the reason why I stopped cleaning my room was because, I don't know, I liked sitting in my own shit. Because it made me feel like I'm less alone or something. Because it's stuffed, full with stuff. And sometimes I didn't want to clean it because I was afraid to sit in such a clean room. Because the air and the vibration is completely different. Because it's an open space, but with what are you going to fill that? Because now it's full with emotion. And if that emotion is gone, what are you going to feel? You know, that is a scary place. So it doesn't mean that if you clean your room and then you do a, healing session, it doesn't mean that it's going to be super awesome. It might be that it's actually terrifying. You know, it might be that you're going to have a panic attack because suddenly all these emotions are gone. You know, you cleaned your room and suddenly it's a clean slate. And then other emotions can come up. So maybe you're gonna lie down and you're gonna turn on this really relaxing flute music, and then you're gonna smoke, and then you're gonna lie down and you lay there and breathe, and then this music suddenly really starts to piss you off, and you're like, I fucking hate this music, and you just feel like you want to scream, right? Well, unless you have a house that's standing somewhere on an acre where nobody can hear you and you're alone, it's probably best to simply look at your anger and to say, wow, how can you be so angry, right? How can you feel so stuck? How can you feel so trapped? Or how could I have rejected or neglected my own needs for so long, right? That's a bit better than just getting angry at everybody. They denied me my needs. I could not fulfill my needs because of all these people that want to spend time with me. No, you also wanted to spend time with them, or you allowed them to distract you from yourself because it was actually welcome to you. Because it was a nice distraction. But now you want to focus more on how you feel. And then you're going to realize you feel really terrible. And that's scary because you were lying to yourself all this time and you were saying, oh, I feel so good. And when somebody would ask you, how do you feel? You would say, yeah, I actually feel really shit. Nobody says that. And if somebody says that, the other person gets like, I have to go. Yeah, that's usually how it is. That's modern life for you. Nobody gives a shit. Because if you say you feel shit, that other person either is honest or runs away. Or they start to become really condescending, start to look down on you, and they start to because that is the beauty about being able to take care of yourself and knowing what you need, right? You can go to somebody and they ask you, how do you feel? You say, yeah, I feel a little bit shit. But it's not such a problem, right? Some people are like, oh, I feel so terrible. And you just say, yeah, actually, I feel really shit. And you just accept it, and then you can laugh about it. And then they say, oh, really? What's the problem? Well, what's the problem with anybody? Because sometimes they ask you, and they rather hear how you feel shit than to accept that they feel shit as well. But sometimes it's also, I found that when people ask you, how do you feel? Sometimes I just say these things because I know they feel the same way, and then you can see it, right? And then in a way they have to think, shit, do I also feel like this? And that's already where you want to be. You want to be there. I mean, why do I talk about how I feel about a dog? Why do I talk about this? So that you realize, you know, if you feel angry about something or someone, you know, you feel angry about a situation, you feel angry about yourself, you know, binge eating is a form of frustration, it's often self-directed anger. You know, there's all kinds of behaviors. Wait. Wow, that doesn't work. Yeah, I just had to turn on another like cooling pad for my laptop because it's running really hot. Or just the ventilator is really ventilating. Anyway, you know, it's just about, you know, I talk about how I feel about things because I'm aware that I feel like this. You know, sometimes I would spend time with children and I would really hate them. Like when they would make noise, I would get really angry at them. And one reason, like especially like babies, you know, I don't have that anymore. Not to such a high degree, in any case. The reason why I would feel like this is because, you know, I have my own needs. And maybe I hate children because their mothers are taking care of their needs. You know, it's like this little cute thing, and whenever it cries, somebody comes and hugs it and takes the child in its in her arms and holds it at her soft bosom. And when it's hungry, it gets this incredibly, you know, yeah, beautiful breast. I mean, that's something that some of us have been denied as children. And sometimes you just want to have that. So you have to learn to give that to yourself by just relaxing. Clean your room. Clean your room, man. Clean it. Don't think about it, just do it. And then it's gonna feel weird because maybe you've never had such a clean room. You'll get used to it. It's a process. Maybe you don't manage all the time. It's also not good to be too anxious about cleaning. You know, sometimes I like to just let it get as dirty as possible so that I actually start also to be comfortable when it's dirty. But now I want to be comfortable when it's clean. But I work through that. You know, I don't want to be so irritated when something's dirty because there are dirty places in the world. Wow. And so what happens, when you realize you are angry at a lot of things, you can smoke to push that away. Or you can work with that. Just look at it. Why am I so angry about this, right? Which needs aren't being fulfilled? My need to engage with myself. So I often do this. I lie down and then I put one hand on my chest and one on my stomach, and this is how I hold myself, right? When I sleep, I often hold myself like this. But I do this consciously. right? And then I feel like, okay, somebody's holding me. It's like hugging myself. Sometimes I stroke my arm, like this. You should just be a little bit gentle. Sometimes I'm laying in my bed and I feel like I just want to hit myself because I'm ashamed. But I know, never hit yourself, never hurt yourself, never harm yourself. And if you've done so, then you have even more reason to start being more gentle with yourself, right? Wow. It's nice if you do that, you get goosebumps. It's like, ooh, it feels good. Because I used to really crave other people always being around. But now I also enjoy being alone. Which doesn't mean I don't want to be with a woman anymore. Or with my woman. But, there's times for being alone and there's times for being with people. And I believe that psychedelics are actually better for being alone if you know what you're doing. And they're not the solution for everything. Because like I said, let's say you smoke now, or you smoke in the morning, and then you go outside, what are you going to pick up? What are you going to pick up? You go to school, people hug you, you take up their stuff. There might be a point where people, they just want to hug each other all the time because they themselves are not enough. I stopped doing that. The only person I want to hug is the mother of my children and my children. Everybody else. But then I don't hug them to feel good. Then I hug them to be together. I mean, in a way, sure, but I already feel good, but then you can feel good together. If I feel shit and I want to hug people, I should actually stop hugging them and take care of how I feel before I engage with anybody. And that's then the path to enlightenment, right? Because you get rid of all the stuff that makes you feel terrible and angry and anxious and heavy. You get rid of all of that. And then you become a more realized being because you're realizing yourself. Yeah, I think I've said enough now. I know, I feel like I want to do other things now. It's really strange. What do I want to do? A part of me really wants to go shopping. I really want to buy black tea because I'm running out of it. But I don't know if that's because I'm really afraid not to drink black tea anymore. I'm not so sure if that's good. Because I'm often wondering if I would stop drinking it, maybe I would relax a bit more. Because right now I'm really pushing it. I'm just doing one recording after another, after another, after another. And sometimes that's why it's nice to just lie down and do nothing. But maybe that time isn't there yet. Maybe I still have to push through. And I really feel like leaving the house because the weather is really nice. Alright, I feel like I've said enough. Anyway, you've got something to work with